they're not your friends. And I know that sounds harsh, but when I got laid off with 10% of my colleagues at my last company, I learned a truth that I wish I'd known a lot earlier. Out of 50 people on my global team, people that I shared meals with and traveled with and spent late nights pulling stuff together for executives with, guess how many reached out once I was gone? 3. Just 3. I'm Kevin, and 6 months ago I got laid off, and it was 2 weeks after my dad had passed. So in the midst of that grief, I found myself facing a new reality, and that was most of the friendships I had at work disappeared overnight. And if you've ever quit or switched teams or gotten laid off, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Here's what I thought I had. I managed a global team across 3 continents. I knew about their families and their career goals and everything in between. We worked hard. We worked together. We spent early mornings and late evenings, depending on which time zone you were in, pulling together reports and projects for executives, often at the last minute. We'd grab lunch when I visited their offices. I cared about these people, and I thought they cared about me too. I was Mr. Reliable, Mr. Can get it done no matter what. Then the layoffs hit, and I got the test. Would these bonds make it when my name disappeared off of Slack? The answer was silence. Out of those 50 people, 3 have reached out to me, and really one of them has kept in consistent contact, and she used to report to me. We have a really strong relationship, obviously. But that's it. Honestly, I had more colleagues from years back at other companies reach out than the ones from the company I just left. Now, that's not to say that the people at the most recent company are bad people. Obviously, when 10% of your colleagues get laid off, you're doing the extra work and you're probably scared for your job too. But here's what I learned. Those deep conversations at the beginning of every meeting, those war stories about staying up late to work on some deadline, those weren't proof of friendship. They were proof of needing to be together and to do something, but it wasn't true friendship. It wasn't true care. It was just proximity, situational connection. Here's a quick gut check for you. If you walked out the door today, how many people on your teams or that you work with would reach out to you? Not because they needed, that file that you took with you, but because they genuinely cared and were worried about you. The truth is, I was confusing proximity with intimacy, stress sharing with real friendship. And that confusion is expensive because companies want you to believe we're like family. Because if you buy it, you'll sacrifice more. You'll stay late or have that 10 p.m. call. You'll miss family dinners and soccer practices with your kids. You'll be happy to burn yourself out for the team. But once you're gone, the family moves on, and fast. What I realized was this. The people who checked in on me, again, I got the double tap. Somebody left a comment recently and called it a double tap of grief and layoff. I got the double tap of that 2 weeks apart. And the people who checked on me were obviously my wife, my kids, my mom, my uncle, my real friends, even my D&D group. And those bonds weren't because of Slack notifications or quarterly goals or KPIs. They were built on something besides a paycheck. Meanwhile, I'd been giving my best energy, my sharpest focus to my job, which, again, to be fair, you do need to do to a point. But what I was giving to my friends and my family were the scraps of what was left every day. So ask yourself, who's getting your best? Your coworkers or the ones that really matter to you? So knowing this reality, what are we supposed to do about it? I'd say first, stop worrying. And that's hard for me to admit to. But the relationships you're building at work are for work. A vast majority of them will not last the test of time. And that's okay. They're there to help you get stuff done, to be successful, to help the company achieve whatever its goals that they hired you to do. But you can't invest only in those. Second, and along those lines, you can't give your best energy to work and work alone. You need to save some of yourself for your spouse, your kids, your closest friends, because if you invest only in your work relationships, they're most likely going to let you down and you'll have a devastating gap at home. Lastly, build relationships outside of work. And I know that sounds very obvious and trite maybe, but it's true. Play a sport, go to a class, find a D&D group, invest in those relationships outside of work, and find people who share your values, not only your deadlines. Getting laid off and losing my dad at the same time was brutal, but it woke me up. Work colleagues aren't bad people, but they're also not supposed to be your support system, so don't construct your life in a way to where you're expecting them to be. So I want to hear from you. Have you stayed close with a majority of your former colleagues, or have you mostly gotten silence like I did? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. And if you're navigating burnout, layoffs, or rethinking what life is all about, that's what this channel is for. I'm documenting my gap year, sharing my story of recovering from burnout, and I'll continue to do so. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.